Joining us from Indoor, Norway, we have author and commentator John Stepling. Mr. Stepling, welcome to the program. Please give us your perspective on this recent, well, I can't say it's recent, but what has been vocal recently about this policy that Western nations are now adopting towards Iran's regional activities and its missile program.
Well, I mean, we've talked before on here about the hypocrisy of this whole topic. The U.S. sanctions, the U.S. dictating the terms of all negotiations. The U.S. has been encouraging for more concessions from Iran, like eliminating ballistic missiles. If one were to really follow the logic of the U.S. in this discussion, the only acceptable thing that Iran could do would be to absolutely prostrate itself and turn over control of the country to the U.S. And then it would be deemed, a member of the international community. Meanwhile, everyone knows it's Mossad that sank the very largest ship in the Iranian fleet the other day. They bombed an oil refinery, not to mention all the nuclear scientists they have targeted. And Israel's very open about this. And you have to understand that Israel, all of the Israeli actions here are sanctioned by the U.S. They are okayed by the U.S. Israel wouldn't exist without the U.S. And after this horrendous 11-day slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza, the slaughter of children, Benny Gantz took a trip to Washington to beg for more armaments and weapons and bombs because they had literally used up all that they had in this 11-day assault on an essentially defenseless population. But again, the only thing the Palestinians could do would be to prostrate themselves and surrender and beg to be obedient slaves. Apparently, that's the way the West sees these things. I mean, even China the other day said that the U.S. has to stop with the sanction policy against Iran. Everyone knows it's irrational and it's ridiculous. So when we talk about the JCPOA and we talk about the EU countries and the G7, I mean, we're in the midst of the so-called Great Reset. Countries are still locked down. There has been a kind of destruction of the welfare state globally, and its replacement, or they're attempting to replace it with like global austerity and a very clear class separation, because that's the only logic behind all the COVID lockdowns at this point. It's not a medical policy. So we're seeing a lot of stuff going on, and the West, of course, has a massive unemployment problem, a massive crisis of capital, and it's not really sustainable. It's propped up by militarism, and that's why you see these provocations and this bellicose rhetoric and so forth, because the U.S. wants to perpetuate these small theaters of conflict that are controllable, use weapons, spend money, and distract from the real domestic problems that you have in the U.S., a crumbling infrastructure, poverty, inequality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we know all of this. So, Iran is in a lose-lose situation. They've met all rational, diktats that the U.S. have, the ones that are rational, they have met. They've agreed to pretty much everything that any nation could agree to. They're not going to turn over all their weapons. They're not going to turn over their policy to the U.S. I don't know what else they can do. Nothing really. And so we're seeing the hypocrisy just writ large at this point. And I'm at a loss for words really at this point, because we've been talking about this for several years, and what the U.S. would like a coup d'etat in Iran, as would Israel. That's the long range goal. They can't afford a real open war, and so they're doing everything this side of that is possible. Meanwhile, the EU is in economic free fall, so they're not going to be much help to anybody.
Okay.
And that's where we stand.
Author and commentator John Stepling joining us from Indroy. Thank you.